Hi, this is Ralph again at Sandfly Fine Wines, Newton's Package Shop in Savannah, Georgia. Today I'm going to tell you a story about getting hooked on wine. What happens when you do get hooked on wine and some of the result that could happen from that. That all is coming to you on Discovering Wine. Well, you know, if you read a good book on a certain subject, sometimes you get hooked on that subject. I read one on the Civil War, and the next thing I know, I'm reading about the Civil War for 5 years. I got read one on the kings of England. Again, I've been reading them for 20 years now. It's called the hook. When something puts a hook in you, you're going to be interested in that particular thing for a long time. Now, I want to tell you a story about me and getting hooked on wine. Sometime in your life, when you get hooked on this subject and you want to learn more and more about wines and becomes more and more important to you, and you meet friends and they have the same feeling about wine that you have, and you have suppers together and you try these special wines together and you talk about them, and you just have a really big time. All of a sudden you've built a whole friendship around wine. Now, every once in a while, you're going to find a wine that is so spectacular or special that it just takes a lot of thinking on your part about when you're actually going to drink this wine. You're going to start by thinking, well, I could have this at supper, or I could have it at a wine tasting, or I could have it at, some special event. But I want to make sure that it ends up where a lot of people get the same feeling I got out of it. So you'll start with making yourself a guest list, and you really don't know where it's going to take you. All you know is it's not going to stay the same. As time goes on, some of your friends will move away. Some will decide they're not that much into wine anymore. And some will say, well, I got better things to do. You're constantly working on your guest list of the people that you want to have when you're presenting this wine to them. Well, let me tell you about the wine that I found that was so special. I had no idea that it was going to affect me this way. I got my hands on a bottle of wine, and it was an 1895 Malmsey Madeira. Now, 1895 is a pretty old bottle of wine, and I was so proud of this wine, I just didn't know who in the world would actually be interested in drinking it with me. I knew a lot of my friends would probably like to, but what would we do? Would we do it after a dinner? Would we do it by itself? How would we do this? And then one day, as I'm looking through and I'm still developing my wine list, the wine guest list of who I want, who is it important for me to invite to this tasting of this wine that would mean so much to me. So one day, as I'm looking through my reunion book, I realized my grandmother and my grandfather were both born in 1895. And I thought to myself, we're fixing to have a reunion with my family in 1995. And we'll all be there, and I can talk to them about this wine, and we can share it together. So we went to Keene, New Hampshire, not far from Mount Monadnock, which is a nasty mountain to climb. And we all got together. There were 115 of us. All of us loved each other. We had a wonderful time, and it was the 100th anniversary, not only of this wine, but also of my grandparents' birth. March of 1895, the buds were just beginning to form on the vines. No grapes yet, just the buds. It'll be fertilized and then become grapes in July when my grandmother was born. My grandmother was born then, and the grapes at that point had developed, but they weren't ready to be picked by any means. They still had a ways to go to get their development. The thing being that both of these were born in 1895. My grandmother and grandfather and the grapes for this wine. They don't have the same type of DNA, but they lived in the same time period for their lives. We opened the bottle and we divided it 115 ways. Now, 25.8 ounces without, and if it probably lost a little bit in 100 years, you don't get but about an ounce, a half an ounce or a third of an ounce. So there's not much to taste. But we divided that up 115 ways. And my Uncle Dick saluted my grandmother and grandfather with it. 115 people who I love dearly made this wine a wine I'll never forget in my lifetime. Anyway, nice little story, part of my history of my life, part of my history of my life with wine. I thought I'd just impart to you and let you know that even though a wine is very expensive, sometimes it's invaluable. If you happen to have a story about wine and how you were hooked on wine, come by the store and discuss it with me. I'd love to hear your story. Any story means a lot to me because it'll bring back memories of other things that have happened because of that hook. So come visit me at Sandfly Fine Wines, Newton's Package Shop, 7359 Skidaway Road in beautiful downtown Sandfly, and have a nice day.